morning, graduates, parents, teachers, and honored guests. My name is Kim, and it is my honor and privilege to introduce our honorary class president for this class of 2015. As the tradition goes, students of the graduating class elect a staff member as honorary class president to deliver a special message. The staff member we have selected is Mrs. Comeaut. Mrs. Comeaut is an English teacher who has taught at Dr. E. Scarlett High School for 6 years. She has a strong passion for teaching English literature and cares about the well-being of every student. As well as teaching, she dedicates endless time and effort to the Yearbook Club, where she inspires students to preserve their high school experiences in a creative yearbook. Mrs. Comeaut puts a higher priority on students and emphasizes the importance of being a productive member of society. Her students describe her as a teacher who lives for students, helps students realize their potential, and loves life of pie and Comeaut more than anything. Please join me in welcoming our honorary class president, Mrs. Comeaut.
Okay, here we go. Good morning, graduates, staff, parents, friends, and guests. I have a feeling I am standing up here today because of karma. This is payback for all the writing assignments I have made you all do. As an English teacher, I have offered much advice to students over the years with regards to writing assignments. My advice typically includes wisdoms such as make sure you have a thesis and pay attention to organization. But most importantly, write what you know. In staring at a blank screen for days trying to write this speech, I've come to a rather scary realization. My advice is terrible. What does write what you mean even mean? Write what you know even mean? In all seriousness, though, writers really do write what they know. At 37.3 years old, I don't really know a great deal, but I would like to share some stories with you today about a few things I know for sure. When I was in grade 12, I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I was terrified. Everyone around me seemed so confident in their plans and futures, except me. I grew to hate the question that so many of you here today have also been bombarded with. What are your plans for after high school? One day, I locked myself in the guidance office, determined not to come out until I had my entire future figured out. When I emerged, I decided that I would enroll in hotel and restaurant management. I did not feel passion or enthusiasm for my plan. What I did feel was immense relief. I finally had an answer to that oh-so-important question. I had a plan, and that was what mattered. I successfully completed this program and received my diploma. Obviously, hotel and restaurant management didn't really work out for me. And so I took some time to wander. I tried a few different things. I worked in human resources, I was a hostess, a bartender, a logistics coordinator, and a bank teller. Then, when I was 22 years old, I finally figured out my life. I was going to be a social worker. And so, I enthusiastically and passionately enrolled in university. I was 3 courses into this new plan when I walked into my first university English class. I was hooked. But I was also a little confused. Changing my major to English wasn't part of my plan, and I felt like a failure again. But I also knew that an English degree, coupled with a teaching degree, was truly my passion, and here I am today, doing what I love. But to be honest, I still don't know what or who I want to be when I grow up. Maybe I will be an area director one day, or maybe I won't. Maybe I will teach for 30 more years, or maybe I will open my own publishing company. I don't know, and that's okay. Many of you here today have ambitious and inspiring 3, 5, or even 10-year plans, and that is great. Be proud of these plans, be confident in these futures, and work as hard as you can to attain these dreams. But please be careful. Don't become so focused on your plans that you close yourself off to other opportunities, maybe even better opportunities. Don't plan out every minute, every month, or every year to the last detail, leaving no room for flexibility. Try to keep your peripheral vision intact. This may be where you find your next answer, your next step. Because what if your plan doesn't work out? What if you get stuck? When my husband and I first moved to Calgary, I hated it. This move was definitely not in my 5-year plan. I didn't want to make friends, and I didn't want to explore the city. All I wanted to do was move back home and go back to my plan. Eventually, however, I embraced this new path, and today I am surrounded by amazing friends. I now know how to drive in this city, and I have a great teaching position here at Scarlet. I learned that plans are great, but sometimes the best things that happen are unscripted. Many of you here today, I suspect, don't yet have it all figured out, and that's okay too. My advice to you is to also be careful. Don't become complacent or too frustrated. Make sure you keep moving, keep stepping forward, seize the opportunities that present themselves, and don't be afraid to create your own. One particular former student who didn't really have it all figured out stands out to me. He too hated the question, what will you do after high school? One day, he, his parents, and us as teachers were in a meeting, and someone asked him this dreaded question about his goals for after high school. His answer was that he wanted to go to Africa and become a lion tamer. We, his teachers, laughed. His parents looked rather frightened, and the student, well, he was calm and confident. About a year after the student graduated, I ran into him at the grocery store. The first thing he did was pull out his phone to show me a picture of him in Africa standing beside a lion. Obviously, the student didn't become an actual lion tamer, but he was moving in a direction that worked for him. In that moment in the store, I knew that this young man was going to be just fine. He would figure things out. You don't have to write your entire life story by the end of this summer, but please don't forget that you have a story to write, a story to live. If this speech were for marks, I would lose some serious points here because my transition sentence is definitely lacking. But nevertheless, I carry on. At the end of every semester, I tend to feel a little guilty. I often feel that I learn far more from my students than they learn from me. I am certainly anything but cool, but thanks to my students, I at least know what cool is. For example, I have you all to thank for improving my vocabulary. First and foremost, I now know that there is no past tense for the word tweet. It is simply a tweet. The word boss is so grade 5, and instead of being cool, you now say swagger. You no longer have boyfriends and girlfriends. Instead, you talk about your sweet babe. Who knew? In addition to these valuable language skills, I've learned a great deal more from you all. I have learned the true definition of resiliency. Every day, I watch you all walk into school with different backgrounds and different struggles. Some of you walk in days after losing a parent to cancer, a friend to an accident, or a loved one to suicide. But you walk in, and you do so with grace and resiliency. You have taught me what true determination means. You come to school determined to master a new language, write the perfect essay, or conquer that elusive math equation. And for some of you, your determination to just get to school, to be here every day, despite what is happening at home, despite the bullies, despite the disabilities, is inspiring. Lastly, you have taught me how important humor is. I used to think that my classes and lessons had to be serious and solemn, but you have taught me that humor is often the best way into your hearts. Okay, here comes the sappy part. Graduation is a time where we often tell you to get out there and change the world. Today, I want to tell you that you have already changed the world, my world. To those of you I have had the privilege of teaching, and to those of you who I simply get to say hello to in the hallway, thank you. Thank you for changing my world. Your resiliency, determination, humor, and your passion have made me a better teacher, a better mom, and a better person. You, grade 12s, inspire me every day, and what an accomplishment. I received a great deal of advice when preparing this speech, but perhaps the best advice given to me was from a colleague who told me to ask myself what message I would want my own son and daughter to hear. So allow me to indulge you in one more story. And I would ask that if you remember nothing else from this speech today, that you remember this story. In my grade 11 English class, my students are asked to answer the following question. What story will you tell with your life? This, of course, is a daunting question regardless of our age. And so, inevitably, there is a lot of complaining and whining. Nevertheless, the results are always astonishing. 2 years ago, a student presented a project that still resonates with me. It is, to date, one of the most profound teaching moments of my career. The student's name was Brian, and he was quite a quiet and unassuming young man. He told us that when he was little, his grandpa would take care of him 1 day a week. At the end of the day, Brian and his grandpa would stop at a store, and Brian's grandpa would buy him a chocolate bar. When they arrived at Brian's house, his grandpa would give Brian the chocolate bar along with a compliment. This young man proceeded to tell the class that he wanted to be remembered for someone who was always kind. And so there, in the classroom, he quietly pulled out a grocery bag and told us that he had a chocolate bar and a compliment for every one of us in the class. You could instantly feel the anticipation. One by one, he called us all up and presented us with our chocolate bars and compliments. He complimented one student on her awesome shoes, another for his contribution to class discussions. He thanked some students and praised others. I too received a compliment that day, and I still have it. The chocolate bar didn't survive because I was literally 9 months pregnant at this time. It is one of the most special artifacts that I have. There was not a dry eye in the classroom by the time Brian handed out his last compliment. It was truly amazing. His simple act of kindness changed an entire class. So the moral of this last story is quite simple. We cannot control those around us, our boss, our parents, our spouse, trust me, but we can control ourselves, our actions, and our words. And we, all of us, can choose kindness. I would like to think that kindness is our most powerful tool out there in the real world. Some of you here today will make groundbreaking scientific discoveries. Some will write provocative novels and create breathtaking art. Some of you will enter the medical field, the vocational field, the teaching field. Some of you will wander, some will travel, and some will serve. Regardless, if you, the graduating class of 2015, embrace the future with continued focus and perspective, a never-ending quest for knowledge, a passion for what you love, and above all, kindness towards others as well as yourselves, then you, graduates, will continue to change the world around you. This I know for sure. Thank you.